embarking on this journey of studying the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra has many different names. Most prominent names are the Brahma Sutras or the Vedanta Sutra. So we're going to talk about the meaning of Vedanta Sutra and Brahma Sutra. And then we'll start with the basic introduction. What is Veda? What is Vedanta? As well as an introduction to why we are studying this. What is the purpose in general? So, Vedanta, Veda means knowledge, and Anta means the final conclusion, the final culmination. Or literally you can say Vedanta, the end of all knowledge. So the apex of all knowledge, that's what we are, that's the journey we are starting here. So on that journey, I'm going to be presenting the conclusions given by our Guru Varga, our disciplic succession of teachers. This is called the Shrotiya Parampara, the lineage based on receiving knowledge or wisdom from those who are self-realized sages who are passing it down generation to generation. And it's not a static line, it's ultimately a dynamic line because it's like a blossoming flower. So according to time, place, and circumstance, the different rishis, Arya rishis, the sages will give us a certain amount of knowledge that we can take in at that time. Like Gurudev would say that we see Jesus, for example. For the time that he was preaching, he gave the message according to the people that they could receive at that time. Ultimately, certain teachings are universal truths, and they transcend limitations of time, place, and circumstance. And then some teachings will also be further evolution or blossoming realization. So that's why it's not just a static message, it's also dynamic. At the same time, it's a descending path of knowledge. The difference between descending and ascending processes, you may have heard, is that the ascending process, actually we talked about this a little bit before, even in so-called ascending process of knowledges, there's still a tradition that they are drawing from. That's why you'll see people like Newton, Einstein, they say, we are standing on the shoulders of giants, therefore we could see farther than people who are not on the shoulders of giants. So if we don't have any foundation of knowledge to start from, then actually we're very uncultured, or you'd say illiterate to a certain extent, right? So even in the so-called ascending path of knowledge, there's still a certain amount of descending knowledge that you are building upon. The difference is that ascending knowledge is based on ultimately mental thought or speculation without what is called amnaya. Amnaya means what is actually realized through samadhi or transcendental realization, through, you could say, through a process of spiritual development, sadhana. So the rishis, the Arya rishis, they, through their own tapasya, their sadhana, which is the difference between like the scientists, they'll spend a lot of time researching and doing experiments, but they're not really necessarily doing 10,000 years of meditation on certain mantras or things like that, which can help you gain what is called samadhi, transcendental revelation. So these are coming from Anaya, and in our parampara is the Krishna, Dvaipayan, Vedvyas line. Vedvyas is he who actually revealed or compiled all the Vedas and presented them to us. And this line we're in specifically, that's coming from originally Krishna himself, Krishna to Brahma, to Narad, to Vyas. Now we're not going to get into the details of this too much because it'll be like a tangent, but the idea is that the path of revealed knowledge coming ultimately from the Supreme Purush, Krishna himself, then to the first, it's a very interesting, that lineage we're part of, we should actually be very, we can say we can be proud to call ourselves part of that family, because it's an unbroken tradition. Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsyo vidu, that this knowledge is received in parampara, in that lineage from millennia. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that actually I taught this same knowledge to the sun god, Vivashvan. And that's like tens of and hundreds of millions of years before. So that's why it's actually it has that weight of history and timelessness to it. At the same time, our course, we're going to try to give it in a fashion that is applicable to the modern day and age, right? And people, in the way that they can digest it now. Ultimately, I mean, our audience is those who have some background knowledge already. We're not giving it to completely the lay person, which would be a kind of different scope of a different course. But still, we'll try to do it in such a way that people who don't have background knowledge so much of bhakti can understand something. That's why we'll try to use like stories and things like that. Also, for those watching online, please be feeling open and free to ask questions, to comment on the subjects while we're talking also, and after the classes also, we'll have open forum kind of for discussion, and I think it'll be fun. So that's the first question we're going to say is, okay, what is the meaning? So Vedanta means the end of all knowledge. It also means, another name for it is the Brahma Sutra. Sutra is like a thread. So that's why it also ties into the parampara, because it's the idea of receiving knowledge in an unbroken chain so that there's no degradation of the philosophy, or you could say that it doesn't waver or go into different, like they say, if it's a river and you have some rivulets that come out and lead into the sand and just dry out. So it's the sutra, meaning it's an unbroken thread. Now at the same time, in that same verse of Krishna said, Evam parampara praptam imang rajarsi sakalane nasta yogo nasta parantapa, that it becomes lost in the course of time. That's why it has to be rediscovered. It's not like, that's why the commentaries are always being given again and again, because it's a form of rebirth or resurrection. Because naturally in this Maya samsara, it's a place of darkness, an illusion. And so things, it's like there may be some great luminary, some great personality, and then as they depart over time again, things become covered over by darkness. That's why it has to be again revealed. Even now, the Vedas are all present, but how many people have it present within them? Meaning how many people have actually studied this knowledge and understood this knowledge and applied it and achieved so-called perfection. So it's the kind of thing where there's the story of that there was the Brahmin who approached Shiva for the boon of getting wealth to maintain his family and to give his daughter and to betroth his daughter, right? I don't know if you've heard this story. So he approaches and prays to Shiva for a long time, and Shiva says, go to my friend Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was a dear friend of Shiva. He stayed in Chakaleshwar Mahadev in Govardhan. They would stay and spend time together and have Harikatha together. So go to my friend Sanatana Goswami. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and asked him for wealth. Sanatana Goswami said, I don't have anything, I'm a beggar. I barely have enough. I have one pair of clothes. I bathe in the Jamuna and that set of kopins dries on my body. I don't even change my kopins. We see Prabhupada, when he was doing his Nam Yagya, he was chanting 1 billion names for 7 years, every day 3 lakhs Harinam, and every day 2 hours chanting mantras. Eating once a day from his own hands that he cooked, and bathing in his own like kopins, drying that in his own body. Like in no way wasting his time in other kind of external, extra, you could say, extraneous pursuits. So he said, what wealth do I have? He said, no, Shiva said Shiva cannot speak any lie. Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Shiva is Satyam, truth. So then he thought, oh, actually, yes, I remember a few days ago I found a touchstone. You heard this story? Yeah, so I found a touchstone. I left it out there in the rubbish. So why are you leaving the rubbish? He went and found that touchstone, and he was walking away with it, but he thought, why did he throw it away? So he must have a wealth that is much greater than that, something that's paramartha, the supreme kind of wealth. And he also was thinking that if I take this wealth now, that someone will find out about it and come to kill me and steal it from me. Ultimately, I won't be able to keep it also. So he again approached Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami said, yes, actually, this is very trivial, very useless. You should go and throw it in the Jamuna, and then I'll give you the paramartha, the supreme wealth. So that's why everything is present in this world, but how many people are actually acknowledging its wealth, the value of it? Wealth means something that has value. So people don't value this knowledge, therefore it becomes lost. And then what we are doing, we're trying to rediscover in the sense that make it again people aware of it and able to digest it to a certain extent that they can gain a benefit from it. Now ultimately it's a precious metal, so it's rare. Some people say like Mahaprabhu's golden age is coming. What is the golden age? Vaishnavas say like gold is more rare than iron, but it's much more valuable. You can have a ton of iron, but if you have a few pounds of gold, what's more valuable? So this golden age is very valuable, but it's very rare. So we should feel we are very fortunate to be able to even have the desire to study this Vedanta, because the very fact that we are inquiring into studying it shows that we are qualified for it. There's the first sutra we're learning is Atato Brahma Jigyasaha. Jigyasa means inquiry. So the fact that we are interested in hearing about it and learning it shows that we're ready now to learn about it. So we're going to talk now about the Brahma Sutra. Why is it called the Brahma Sutra? Brahma Sutra also means, what is the meaning of Brahma? Brahma means ultimately undivided consciousness, non-dual absolute consciousness. That's how it's defined in its most basic kind of terminology. So Brahma Sutra means it's the study of consciousness in its fully blossomed state, how to reach that state. So in our course, we're not doing it just for dry learning, but for finding a way to enhance our own spiritual journey and to its fruition. It's a process of Brahma Sutra, awakening your consciousness to the highest state of development. And if we can do that, then our study of Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra is ultimately successful. So it's not just for, okay, I need to study this and learn this so I can become some kind of learned person. The real learned person, it says, Vidya Vinaya Samyate. Vidya, real knowledge, means that I have applied it, I've become humbled by it, because we realize that now it's not that I am knowledgeable, it's that I am awed by the vastness and the magical, mystical nature of reality itself. So that's why Vidya Vinaya Sampati, I've learned it, then I've become humbled by it, instead of become proud of it. If we become proud of it, means that there's the example given that what we know is a very small part of reality, right? And what we don't know is a much larger part. But what we don't know is the vast majority of what is there, right? So our knowledge is very tiny. Newton would say that, I'm standing on the shore of the ocean of reality, and I'm just discovering a few pebbles or a few sands or a few drops. And I'm seeing a certain distance, but it's like you're standing on the shore of an endless ocean. What do we really know? So we're learning it to try to understand it and apply it in our life to reach that state of the full potential of the consciousness. And that's Brahma. So Brahma is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. So we're going to go through this first sutra today and discuss it along with the kind of general introduction to Vedanta. So we'll start, actually, we can discuss a little bit more into Vedanta first. There's two angles we're going to go with, Brahma Sutra and Vedanta Sutra, two main names for it. So when we talk about Vedanta, why is it called Vedanta, the end of all knowledge?